Another night of the offense putting up some runs. Another night of the starting pitcher doing just enough. Another night of the bullpen doing well. And we're going to talk about James Outman doing well and Max Muncy doing not so well. That's all on tap, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper Picks, and you can win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to join the exclusive group, the Everydayers, all you got to do is listen every day. And to help you listen every day is to be reminded that the episode is here every day. And you can do that by subscribing wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host, Jeff Snider. We're both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team, and we've been in the clubhouse, been in the locker room. We've been to a lot of Dodger games. We've watched a lot of Dodger games. We've talked about the Dodgers a lot. So basically, a little chunk of our lives is dedicated to the Dodgers, and one of that part of that chunk is this podcast, where we believe we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. That's what we're here to do today. Jeff, last night the Dodgers won again, 10-3. Making the Orioles look like the Orioles of old. They didn't play well offensively, defensively, pitching-wise, a lot of things there. The Dodgers took advantage and put up 10 runs. 12 teams so far tonight. I don't know if all the games are done, have scored at least 10 runs in tonight's slate, on Tuesday night's slate. So, a lot of runs being scored around. The Orioles were not one of those teams that scored a lot of those runs. And one of those reasons is Michael Grove, who we're going to start talking about first, because Michael Grove might be making a step in the right direction and might be able to get left-handed hitters out, which he hasn't been able to do up until about 3 appearances ago.
Yeah, that could be huge for him. It's kind of funny timing. We talked yesterday about Ryan Brazier and his new cutter and how that has totally made the difference for him. And it's kind of the same story for Grove. Obviously, Grove is in a different role, but Grove's big issue, like you said, has been he's had pretty heavy platoon splits. And what we saw on Tuesday night was a Michael Grove who can get lefties out, because that cutter, he was relying on it really heavily. And it's, what did you say? He just started throwing that this year, right? Just a couple months ago?
June 28th was the first time he used it. He's thrown it 35 times and only to 25 times, all to left-handed hitters.
Huh. Yeah. So when you're a platoon pitcher, you either go to the bullpen or you find out a way to get opposite-handed hitters out. And even Clayton Kershaw, as great as he is, he didn't become Clayton Kershaw with all capital letters, future Hall of Famer, until he developed his slider. And that slider is death on righties. It's what turned Kershaw into an elite pitcher. Before that, he was a guy who threw too many pitches because he didn't have quite that put him away stuff, especially against right-handed hitters. And so he needed to develop that third pitch. For Grove, this cutter could be that pitch that turns him into an actual major league starter, which would be huge for the Dodgers. Obviously, we don't know what the trade deadline holds in store. Lucas Giolito was on the bad end of one of those 10-plus run games. I think he allowed 8 runs and two plus innings or something on Tuesday. So, doesn't mean Giolito's bad, but, it kind of underscores the fact that there are no easy answers, no obvious answers. And a guy like Grove actually becoming a productive pitcher, even that game, you remember when he pitched against the Yankees and he gave up the 2-run homers to Jake Bauers. It's just Jake Bauers, but it's kind of indicative of Jake Bauers is a power hitting lefty. He's the kind of guy who Michael Grove needs to be able to get out, whether he's staying in the starting rotation the rest of the season, maybe even making a postseason start, depending on how things go. Michael Grove needs to be able to get lefties out, and this cutter seems like a huge development.
Yeah, and it's twofold for the Dodgers. It's him being a productive major league starter, which they need right now. Would have preferred him to go to 6 innings if he could have, but like kind of how we talked about the other day. If these guys can go, if Sheehan, Miller, Grove can go 5 every time out, that's kind of bare minimum at this point what they need, and then they'd need Julio and Kershaw, whoever else to kind of go more if they could, uh, but it also works if they do make a bigger deal for somebody else. And hey, look at this shiny new Michael Grove cutter that he can get left-handed hitters out, and he can be maybe a number 3, number 4 starting pitcher for you right now, and could develop into more because he does throw hard. He does have a good curveball. He does have now that cutter. He can get lefties out, and with a little bit more development and seasoning, he could become a guy that is probably a number 2 on a bad team, but a number 3 or 4 or 5 on a really, really good team, depending how you look at it. So, yeah, it benefits the Dodgers in multiple ways, and especially right now when they need guys that can go innings, and especially in this game, the Dodgers put up 5 in the second inning, and then Grove he had a really good first inning, 1, 2, 3. Second inning struggled a little bit, did give up a run, ended up getting out of it, and you were like, man, I just hope Grove can hold the fort down for 5 innings. Even if they get it to, tie it up, at least the Dodgers have those 5 runs already in the bag. Maybe they'll tack on more. That ended up with what happened. Grove hit the 5. He couldn't get into the 6. Yancy Almonte came in, saved him. And then the rest of the game was Phil Bickford and Nick Robertson, who the Dodgers, are those are the 2 guys lowest on the totem pole right now in terms of relievers. So overall, good win, but it started with Michael Grove being able to shut down after the Dodgers put up runs first. And the Orioles had 7 lefties in the lineup, so it wasn't like and the Orioles came in. They're a really good team. They're second best record in the AL, maybe still if they're really close to catching the Rays. They have a really good offense. They came in winning 8 in a row. The Dodgers have kind of shut them down the last 2 days, so it's a good step in the right direction. We don't know what the future holds, especially the immediate future. He could be on another team in 2 weeks, but either way, if he's not, we're glad that he's learning this new, or he has this new pitch in his arsenal. And if he is, we're probably glad with whoever they got for him.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact, it was 93 degrees and humid there in Baltimore. The fact that Grove even got into the 6th inning, obviously they would have loved for him to get, 2 or 3 outs in the 6th inning, but even to get in there was huge. And then the offense stepped up. Almonte had to pitch the bottom of the 6th, but then it was the top of the 7th. The Dodgers kind of put the game away. They scored 4 more runs. At that point, yeah, Dave Roberts was able to say, okay, good. I don't have to use any more good relievers. And Roberts even said after the game that he was hoping to avoid Phillips and Gratterall again, give them a second straight day off, because that sets them up really well. Because now they've got the day game today and then a day off tomorrow. And so even if Phillips and Gratterall both pitch today, which you have to assume they both will, whether they're needed or not, they'll probably both pitch. And then they'll go into Friday having only pitched once in the last 4 days each. So really sets them up well for this series in Texas. And that's, credit to Grove and the offense of, Grove keeping it close and then the offense busting out late so that Roberts was able to deploy his bullpen the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, the Dodgers turning the cutter into the new sweeper is probably going to be something we have to talk about soon. If one more guy learns a cutter and it works well, we're going to have to look into that.
Tony Gonsolin, get you a cutter.
Yeah, that'll work. One of the guys that had a couple hits last night was James Outman. James Outman has looked better at the plate. He's striking out less. He's doesn't have as much power as he had before, but he's making more contact. We'll talk about that and kind of what we've noticed and what they talked about on the broadcast. So that's what's on tap. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Have you ever been in a tough spot where you need a little financial help? Well, that's why Dave is great, because Dave can get you cash when you need a hand between paychecks and can help you build credit by settling extra cash advances on time. There's always a time where it's usually car trouble. Car trouble is always the one that gets me. you got, you need brakes. One time I needed a new transmission, and you're like, oh man, I don't get paid for a couple weeks, but I need to drive in order to handle that. Well, Dave can help you out with all of that, and it helps you out for you. Finances are intimidating, but that's why you need Dave, because it can make managing your money so much easier with an interest-free extra cash advance, fee-free goal tracking, and easy ways to find a side hustle to make more money. Dave is the banking app that's leveling the financial playing field. When you download Dave, you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. It's part of Dave's extra cash account. Advance the money you need with no interest, and then settle up later. So if you're in a pinch, get the help you need by downloading Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/MLB. That's dave.com/MLB. You could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/MLB. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to subscribe and listen every day and become a part of the Everydayers. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. Remember, if you cannot watch the Dodger game, but you still want to listen, you can catch the hometown broadcast every game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you have to do is search Dodgers, and you can get that home broadcast there for you every game. You can also find us on there if you search Locked On Dodgers. All right, Jeff. So James Outman had a couple hits last night, and also a couple no strikeouts, 2 hits, 2 walks. Has had a pretty good last 10 days or so. You look at the last 7 games, specifically, he's hitting .333 with just 6 strikeouts, 7 hits, and 21 at-bats, 6 walks as well. So he seems to have cut down a little bit on the swing and miss. No home runs in that stretch, and maybe cut down a little bit on his power as well. But he's hitting some lefties. He's hitting contact. He's stroking some singles, and looks like something that's a little bit more sustainable. And if he gets comfortable with that, we can see something similar to kind of what we saw with Lux last year, where the power starts to come along once he gets comfortable with this new way of swinging.
Yeah, I went back 10 games. He had the day off on July 3rd. And then what was that? The first game against the Pirates. And since then, 10 games since then, he's batting .333. He has a OPS over 1,000 in that time. And for me, like you mentioned, the strikeout, the contact, he did hit 2 home runs in the first game of that stretch on the 4th of July. Hasn't homered since then. But the strikeout rate is the huge thing. Before, through July 3rd, his strikeout rate this season was 34.6%, which is too high. Since then, the last 10 games, it's 27.8%, which is actually pretty close to league average. If James Outman can have a league average strikeout rate, he's still going to hit some home runs, and I think over time it will become a situation where he can pick his spots. We used to talk about that with Cody Bellinger, how, okay, when you're in a 2-0 count, sit dead red and let it fly, get your 2-0, 2-1 home runs, but, shortening the swing up, or at least, going back to the regular short swing when you're not in that situation, so that most of the time you are trying to get a base hit. With Outman's speed, he is so valuable on the bases because he can steal a base, he can take an extra base. He has a very good chance of scoring when he gets on base. And the thing we've seen with him, even some of his home runs, you watch his swing, he doesn't even complete the swing. And so it's always been so weird to me that he strikes out as much as he does, because he doesn't have this huge, Fernando Tatis accidentally pull your shoulder out of the socket on the swing kind of swing. He's got a very compact swing. Oral Hershiser in the broadcast on Tuesday compared him to Chase Utley. And it is kind of like that, where you remember Utley used to do that. It looked like a half swing. And, when you think about it, I've heard hitting coaches preach that you need all your energy going into the ball. Once the bat has made contact with the ball, it doesn't matter anymore, So if you don't need to use that much energy after the ball has already gone off the bat, and we've seen that a lot with Outman, and it seems like maybe he is. it also feels like they're attacking him less with high fastballs lately. And maybe it's because he showed that he either wasn't as susceptible to him, wasn't going to swing at him as much. But during that stretch when he was striking out a ton in May and June, it seemed like they attacked him with high fastballs a lot, and seems like they're not as much anymore. But that could be my perception. I haven't looked at any stats on that. But overall, I mean, if Outman can make contact, he's going to get his hits. He's going to get, he went 2 for 3 on Tuesday. He's going to get some infield hits. He's going to hit some doubles. And him on the base is very valuable.
Especially at the bottom of the order, him getting on base is, huge. When Mookie, Freddie, Will, all these guys get up to the plate, having somebody on base in one of those innings that swings around is key. And for him, he's kind of, everyone as a whole in that outfield, Outman, Peralta, and Hayward have kind of solidified themselves as the outfield. Mookie Betts has played infield, I want to say, the last 10 game, or at least 9 of the last 10, something like that. He's played infield.
And a lot of that is because they've only faced right-handed pitching. And so they have their left-handed outfield that they play against right-handed pitchers. And I think who they're going to face, Andrew Heaney and another lefty in Texas. So we'll see Mookie back in the outfield soon. But yeah, they've had a long stretch of facing righties. Yeah,
we would think, with Chris Taylor now back, with Jake Marisnick got hurt, going out to center field. He's going to go on the injured list. Johnny DeLuca will be back. So like those two guys may get a couple starts here. We'll see, what they end up doing Mookie, because Vargas is not in the majors anymore. But regardless of it, Outman had gotten to a point where he wasn't guaranteed to start against righties and wasn't starting at all against lefties. He's gotten some hits against lefties recently. I don't know if there's enough there to justify him to start, but if they want to keep Mookie in the infield and kind of keep one other outfielder that hits lefty up in the starting lineup, that might be the case for him. So it's good. And it's one of those where we talked about it. How fast can he make his adjustment? It took about a month for starting pitchers and other pitchers to make their adjustment to him. Took him a little bit longer than a month to make that adjustment back. But it seems like he's in a good spot. And yeah, like you said, eye test, it seems like he's not getting as much high fastballs, but he is walking a lot more. And, I'll probably miss a couple of pitches here and not bad. Maybe they are throwing them there and he's just not swinging like he was before, because he is walking a lot more than he was before. And I think that's kind of what's helping out cut into that strikeout rate as well, is that he's either not getting those high fastballs or he's not swinging at them regardless. And he's being a productive MLB outfielder, which is exactly what the Dodgers need. It doesn't lessen the need for another bat at all anyways, but it does, kind of help out in the other sense of like, okay, we don't need a center fielder. Maybe we just need to get somebody that can hit. That's not a first baseman or a catcher or DH.
Yeah. I was just looking at Mookie's numbers. In his last 19 games, he has played at least some infield in 17 of those games. Some of the games he started in right field and moved to the infield later. Only twice has he played right field the entire game. So yeah, I think Mookie's shooting for that after 6 straight Gold Gloves in right field. He's shooting for that utility player Gold Glove this year, and I think he's got to be the front runner. He's playing good defense everywhere he goes. So yeah, it's having Outman there it would be huge. Obviously, if they can get him swinging the bat well again. Somebody else is going to slump in the next segment. We're going to talk about somebody who's currently slumping. Those things are always cyclical. But having Outman there at the bottom of the lineup could be huge for this Dodgers lineup.
Yeah, like you mentioned, that one person slumping is Max Muncy. He's had a kind of a weird year, but now he's at a point, at least the last couple weeks, where he's not getting robbed anymore. He's not hitting the ball as hard anymore. He's just kind of there in the middle of the lineup, kind of a little bit of a black hole. So we'll talk about that. So that's what's up next. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Check out Sleeper. If you want the chance to win more money with less picks, head to Sleeper where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Mookie Betts did not homer the other day when I gave you guys that as a pick, but usually he had homered on those days. So, but again, right now, Freddie Freeman's heating up. So Freddie Freeman's definitely someone you want to get in on your picks. Probably for some hits, get a hit. Freddie Freeman, yes. Remember, you can stack up to 8 of those picks, and you can win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball because you can get up. Like I said, you can choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on big time stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. If you get your picks right, you could win big. So go check out the Sleeper app. You can, see what's all there. Entries can be made in 30 seconds or less. It's that easy. There's safe and fast withdrawals. There's an in-group chat functionality where you can see and copy your group's picks with the tap of a button. So go check out the Sleeper app and all those functions and functionalities they have. And right now, use the promo code Locked On. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms are used for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. Last segment, and one that's not as positive as the first two segments. This one's about Max Muncy and his struggles at the plate. He went 0 for 6 last night. He did have an RBI, but that was on a ground ball, and that Mookie Betts helped him out by getting a really good jump at third base. But yeah, 0 for 6 last night, a couple of strikeouts. He's hitting 111 over the last week. He's hitting 182, or he's on 187 now on the season, 182 over the last couple of weeks. But 8 strikeouts in the last 7 games. He's still walking a decent amount, 6 walks. But again, he's just not providing a threat there in the middle of the lineup right now. You don't expect him to hit the ball hard like you kind of did at one point, or not really expecting home runs like he had, a couple times here where he's had a string of home runs. And it seemed like he was turning the corner after, he hit those couple home runs back at Dodger Stadium, and was hitting the ball, on the nose again. Now he seems to have lost that. I don't know, at this point, he's far enough removed from injury unless he has a new injury. I don't know if he has any other quirks or kicks to add to his swing to help him out. But, it's getting to the point where we've talked about the Dodgers looking at, maybe a third baseman. And if they get Max Muncy back in the fold, or if they get a new third baseman in the fold at the deadline, that might push Muncy back to second base, or, in a platoon role maybe.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, it's not even just, however many games you go back. You could go back 2 months. Since May 18th, Max Muncy is batting 150 with a 266 on base percentage in the last 2 months. And obviously he was hurt for some of that time. But I mean, he was, that covers about, looks like it's about 20 games before he got hurt, and another 15 or 16 since he came back from that injury. And so, and the slugging percentage is down in the low 300s too. And so it's really, I mean, his OPS is under 600 in the last 2 months. He's still been batting cleanup for the Dodgers a lot of the time, most of the time, I'd say. And, we've had some comments in YouTube and on social media about moving Muncy down the lineup. And, part of me is like, well, the offense is still working. And, you don't want to make a situation worse with Muncy by, making him feel like he's being demoted. But also you wonder if at this point, maybe the pressure of batting cleanup, we've seen that over the years with different guys. And different guys respond to different motivations. But, Gavin Lux thrived in the 9-hole last year. Jock Peterson at times had to be dropped in the lineup to really bounce back and get going. Cody Bellinger, they had him batting 6th and 7th a lot of the time when he was struggling. And I wonder if Muncy batting 6th or 7th instead of cleanup could be beneficial to him, which would be beneficial to the team in the long run, because maybe less of that pressure, and it's going to help the team too. If instead of after Mookie and Freddie and Will do their thing, if it's not Muncy coming up, who right now isn't doing much, that it could be a win-win situation.
Yeah, and the good part is, like, you have JD Mart, like, you have a built-in number 4 hitter, and I don't think moving JD, from 5 to 4 is gonna mess with him too much. He's so dedicated to his swing that you could bat him first, second, third, fourth. I literally don't think anything will kind of get into his swing other than just his swing getting messed up on its own. It is kind of interesting because Peralta, maybe slumping a little the last couple of weeks. Hayward had the big home run. There's not anyone necessarily that you're like, oh yeah, they move up right now into that 5-hole, but they're more of a threat. Like Peralta's more of a threat. Hayward's more of a threat. I don't think you want to put Outman up that high just because he's had a little bit of better success recently, but that's possible. There's not a like, oh, for sure, everyone just kind of moves up type of deal. But if that's what they need to do, I do think they're going to give him a little bit more time, maybe through the deadline, and then they'll kind of decide, okay, you know what, he's not hitting. We didn't get anybody that's going to be in the starting lineup capacity, so maybe we will drop Max and kind of let him build his way back up. Because it's working now. The Dodgers are winning, but again, everything's kind of gearing up for October. And Muncy's had a season where he wasn't good and then had clutch moments in the postseason. So you kind of can bank on that, I guess, in a sense. But again, it's not really something to bank on because you never know. Every year's a little different than the last.
If one thing you know about Vince is that you will never bank on anything regarding the Dodgers offense in the postseason.
So yeah, nothing positive at least.
Yeah. I guess last thing I want to talk about is you mentioned Jake Marisnick got hurt. It was kind of interesting. He pinch hit for Jason Hayward in the third inning. It was very early in the game. Hayward hit a 3-run homer his first time up, and then El Bencho, as they like to say, Dave Roberts was asked about it after the game, and kind of he mentioned that he did that with David Freese a couple times in the postseason in 2018. I looked, and once against the Braves, he pinch hit for Freese in the third inning with Muncy, and then another time against the Brewers, pinch hit for him in the second inning with Muncy also. Both times it was after one at bat for Freese. So similar situation. Marisnick came in, got a base hit, and then popped his hamstring and is going on the injured list. Fabian Ardaya reports that Johnny DeLuca will be called up to take his spot, which makes sense because Johnny DeLuca was sent down when the Dodgers signed Marisnick. I feel like Jake Marisnick is going to be this year's Kevin Pillar. It's like, here's a guy who grew up rooting for the Dodgers. Then the Dodgers signed him and Dodger fans weren't happy about it. And he played a couple games and he got hurt. Now we're going to spend all of September hearing reports that Jake Marisnick hopes to be ready for the postseason while we sit here and think, okay, but why do we want him to be ready for the postseason? So he's basically exactly Kevin Pillar.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison at all. He had a couple hits the last 2 days. One of them was a little flare single, but hey, it was still a line drive in the book. But yeah, who knows? If you hear a pop and it goes into your hamstring, it's going to take you a while to get back. And, if DeLuca gets a shot, he didn't get much of a shot before. He would start here and there. But if they have a string of lefties they're going to face here this weekend, maybe some more lefties in the future, maybe, he makes it to that we don't think about Marisnick, and Marisnick ends up being, a roster casualty if they need it at some point. That's a possibility. So, yeah, a couple other updates. Clayton Kershaw threw a bullpen. He still doesn't have any pain. Still seems like they're going to hold him out till August. So that seems like a fun environment to be in, telling Clayton Kershaw, I know you don't have any pain, but you're still not going to pitch for another couple weeks. And then quick update on Miguel Vargas down in OKC. He had a little bit of a slow start, but he's now 6 for 13 with a bunch of walks. I think 6 for his last 7 with a bunch of walks. So, again, a lot of guys have gone down to AAA, and there's been a lot of guys at OKC that have been very good offensively. But for Vargas, it's a matter of we know he has the talent. It's just a matter of maybe getting that confidence up and, seeing the ball and hitting the ball well is something that can boost that confidence.
Yeah, and as soon as they have an everyday role for Vargas, he'll be back up in the big leagues, assuming he keeps hitting well in AAA. DeLuca, I think they would have loved to have him in AAA where he could play every day. This will work well, though, because like we talked about, at least 2 of the next 4 games are against left-handed pitchers, so he'll probably get a couple starts there, and then they can reassess at that point. But kind of a bummer for Marisnick, just like it was for Pillar. You don't finally get the dream of playing for your childhood team, and then you go down with injury pretty quick. But hey, got to wear the Dodger blue. Travis d'Arnaud only got 1 game, and the Dodgers fixed him and shipped him off to become a superstar. So
yeah, future immaculate grid answer for Dodgers, Astros, or Dodgers, whoever else he's played for. So
I used Mike Piazza as a Marlins Silver Slugger in yesterday's immaculate grid.
That'll work. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe so you get notified when our new episodes are up. And make sure to listen when those new episodes are up and be a part of the Everydayers, because why wouldn't you want to be part of the everydayers? Remember, you can listen to the Dodgers home broadcast on SiriusXM or the SXM app if you search for Dodgers. Also, we can find Locked On Dodgers on there. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram, Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. DMs are open on all those accounts if you need to get a hold of us. You can also get a hold of us via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, text my advice play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.